Good morning, students. Before we begin with today's specific lesson, I'd like to do a review over what we've learned so far. Let's first discuss parallelograms. Remember that parallelograms are polygons, and that word polygons is just a special word for shapes that have straight lines. So I'll just put here for shapes whose sides are parallel, whose opposite sides are parallel. Okay, and so a parallelogram can look something like this, where the top and the bottom are parallel, and the right hand and the left side are also parallel. And in the parallelogram family, you can have a rectangle. And what makes a rectangle special is that it has 4 right angles, or 4 90-degree angles. We won't get too deep into the angle measurements here in 6th grade, but it's good knowledge to know. And on the right over here, I have a rhombus. And a rhombus does not have 4 right angles, but it does have 4 equal sides. So this one here is a rectangle, and this one here is a rhombus. And if the two of these were to have the same properties, then it would be called a square, and that was an ugly square, but you can use your imagination. So this here would be a square. It has 4 right angles as well as 4 equal sides. So that is the parallelogram family. Okay, and to find the area of a parallelogram, you multiply the base times their height. Base times the height. Okay, and the base and the height are always shown at a right angle. So you'll see here, right angles are indicated by a little square in the corner. And so you would have a base and you would have a height. And that's really important to know for this entire chapter as we do area. So let's look at an example. Okay, I have a parallelogram here. 12, this value is 12, this value here is 7, and this value is 10. And I want you to find the area. And your area is going to be the base times the height. Okay, so what do you think the base is? Well, I want you to find the right angle. And here it is, usually indicated by these dotted lines. And what it runs perpendicular. Perpendicular means at that right angle is going to be this bottom piece here, section, which is 12. So 12 is your base, and 7 is going to be your height. Now we're not even going to use this value 10. So just because it gives you 3 numbers does not mean that you have to use all 3 of those numbers. So we can multiply now our base of 12 times our height of 7 and get a total area of 84. And I'm not sure what my units are, but whatever they would be, I would square them. So the area here is 84 units squared. Okay. Let's look at this next example. Find the height of a parallelogram if its base is 35 centimeters and its area is 700 square centimeters. Remember, area is equal to the base times the height. So plug in what you know. I know that the area is 700 is equal to my base of 35 multiplied by the height. Now, in order to solve this equation, I use, remember, your inverse operations. Inverse operations. So that is the opposite operations. If I'm multiplying 35 times x, and I want to get, or times h in this case, and I want to get h by itself, then that means I need to divide by 35. And whatever operation you do to one side of the equation, you must do to the other. 35 divided by 35 just leaves you with 1h. And then you can divide 700 divided by 35 to get 20. And my units here are centimeters. So that means that the height of this parallelogram is 20 centimeters. Let's go over a trapezoid. A trapezoid is a quadrilateral. Okay, remember, a quadrilateral is just any shape that has 4 sides, right? And that has 1 pair of parallel sides. So a parallelogram has 2 pairs of parallel sides, whereas a trapezoid only has 1 pair. And so both that pair of parallel sides are going to be the bases. So notice here the top and the bottom are parallel. Those must be the bases. The bases are always the parallel sides. And we can now find the height. The height is going to be what is perpendicular to your base. Okay, perpendicular. And I want to also draw it a different way. Okay, so here's another trapezoid. Here's my bases, the parallel sides. Okay, and sometimes they will give you the height on the outside of the figure. Okay, but if you see the right angle, remember the right angle is always going to indicate to you the height and the base that are connected. So here's base 1 and base 2 along the bottom, and your height is the distance between the bases. That's always going to be your height. So the area, okay, for a trapezoid is the sum of the bases, base 1 plus base 2, multiplied by the height, and then divided by 2. Okay, so let's look at an example here, and I wanted to do this example because it's a funky looking trapezoid. But remember, the key is to always identify what are your bases and what is the height. If you can figure those out, then you can solve any problem this chapter. So notice here that 5 and whatever this is are not going to be parallel, right? This one sort of comes inwards, this one comes inwards the other direction. The parallel sides here are 18 and 7. Those are my bases, 18 and 7. And the distance between them over here, which is the same as here, and the same as here, and the same as here, the same as everywhere, is 4. So 4 is your height. Okay, the distance between the bases is your height. Now let's plug it into the formula. Area is equal to the sum of the bases, 18 plus 7, multiplied by your height of 4, all divided by 2. So I can add together the sum here, which is 18 plus 7, which is 25, times 4, divided by 2. 25 times 4 is 100, divided by 2 is going to be 50. And let's say that this is 50 feet squared, okay? And this is just a very small garden out in front of my house. And there's no grass on this piece of my garden, but, you know, Rosie loves her grass. So we need to figure out that lawn seed is $2 per square foot. So how much money will it cost me to put grass seed on my 50 square foot lawn? So whenever you're evaluating something like this, you need to ask yourself, do I need a bigger number or do I need a smaller number, right? Do you think it costs more money the more seed I buy or less money the more seed I buy? If you said more money, then you are correct. And what operations give you larger numbers, multiplying or adding? But which one makes sense here? Would I add 50 plus $2 or should I multiply? I should multiply here. Okay, multiplication, that's the winner. I want to multiply. For every foot, I need to pay $2. So 50 times $2. So to seed my lawn will cost me $100. A triangle is a polygon that has 3 sides. Okay. And triangles can look different ways. I can have one that looks like this here. This is called a right triangle because it has a right angle down here. This one here is called an equilateral triangle because all the sides here are the same. And I can even have some weird looking guy like this over here, and that is still a triangle because it has 3 sides. And the key when working with triangles is to be able to identify your base and your height. Remember I said when we talked about parallelograms that that's going to be the most important thing this chapter is being able to identify bases and heights. So this triangle, the right triangle, is pretty simple. You have the base and you have your height. It's very straightforward because it already gives you the right angle. Okay? And remember we said that your base and your height, they meet at that right angle. But look at this equilateral triangle. The bottom here is my base. Okay? But neither of these sides, the left or the right, make a right angle. So I have to draw that height line that is going to be perpendicular to the base. And that line there is my height. And we can do the same here. Notice here is my base. It's a little tilted. Okay? And this would come out just a little bit further and to create my height over here. So you want to be looking for that right angle. And we can also discuss what is the area of a triangle. And the area of a triangle is the base times the height. Okay? Because if you think about a triangle, right? If I take another triangle and put it on top, what larger shape did I just create here? A rectangle. And we learned from parallelograms that it's going to be your base times your height, right? But I don't want a whole rectangle. I just want that half of the rectangle. That makes a triangle. So I take my base and my height, and then I can divide it by 2, because the triangle inside of a rectangle is half of it. Okay, so let's look at an example here. I'm going to draw an upside down triangle. Okay, and this value here is 12.1, 9 on the right, 9 on the left, and straight down the middle, it's going to be 6.4, 6 4/10. Okay, so I want you to find right away, you need to find the right angle. Here it is. And so that you can identify your base and your height. So the base is along the right angle, 12.1. And your height is going to be the line that is perpendicular from that, which here is going to be 6 4/10. So now to find the area, you would just have to multiply 12 1/10 times 6 4/10, then divide it by 2. So 12 1/10 multiplied by 6 4/10 would give you 77 44/100 divided by 2 with a final result of 38 72/100. Okay, and I don't know what my units are here, but of course this is area, so whatever units they would be squared. Okay, and one more example here. I'd like you guys really to pay attention to this one. Okay, I'm going to give you a triangle, and I'll switch over colors to be a little more fun. Let's get a green going. All right, along the base here, I don't know what the base is, so I used a variable b. And I do know that the height here is 6 centimeters, and I'm told that the area is 24. The area is 24 centimeters squared. So I want you to start with the formula. Area is equal to base times the height divided by 2. Plug in what you know. You know that the area is 24. You know that we don't know the base, but I do know that the height is 6. Then I can divide that by 2. Now, our first step here is we need to get rid of this 2 on the bottom. Remember that a fraction is division. So to undo division, because remember we're solving an equation, to undo division we need to multiply by 2. So I would multiply by 2 on both sides. 2 times 24 is 48 is equal to, now I have a 2 in the numerator, 2 in the denominator, they become 1, so I'm just left with 1b times 6. Right? Now I have a multiplication. The opposite of multiplication will be to divide. 6 divided by 6 is 1, so I have 1b is equal to 48 divided by 6, which is 8. And here I do have units, 8 centimeters.